What's up, guys? Episode 14 of the Vision Board podcast. I'm Tristan Cannell, alongside me, Johnny Stoffko.
What's up, guys? Let's do this. Rock and roll. How's the energy over here, man?
Oh,
Good?
it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Oh, dude, so.
Sydney is a little bit wet, so I'd rather bring my energy in here.
Let's bring the pain.
Awesome. But today, guys, we've got Tait Fletcher. Most of you guys know him. You must know him from somewhere. He's in Hollywood. He's in the UFC. He's an entrepreneur. He's got Pirate Life Radio. So the man is a multi-dimensional, dynamic human being.
Very dynamic. Tait Fletcher is a guy I've actually watched probably since 10 years ago and just slowly stayed. Perfect example of a man reaching for more, evolving, and he's always taking that next step.
Yeah, he's the man. But before that, big shout out to our sponsors, Jackrabbit Slim's Barbershop in Potts Point, and also The Organic Trainer.
Yeah, check The Organic Trainer out at www.theorganictrainer.com. Exercise tea. They have a great water bottle flask. When you're checking out proceeding to the checkout, type in keyword The Vision Board to receive 10% off of all of your purchases. Our second sponsor for this episode of the Vision Board podcast is Jackrabbit Slim's Barbershop. If you're in the Sydney, Australia area, King's Cross, Potts Point, set an appointment up with Dre. He'll leave you feeling so fresh and so clean, funky, fresh. Let's do this. TK.
Awesome. And guys, this is Tait Fletcher.
It makes me wanna creep.
I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Johnny Stoffko and Tristan Cannell.
All right, our special guest today is a multi-dimensional human by the name of Tait Fletcher. Tait's a Hollywood actor and stuntman. He's appeared in movies such as Two Guns with Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, and he's also a star on Breaking Bad. He's also a very successful podcaster with Pirate Life Radio. He's a former UFC fighter, Jiu Jitsu Black Belt. We welcome the dynamic Tait Fletcher live from Miami. Tait, how are you, man?
Thank you, boys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Great to be here, finally.
Thanks so much.
Glad that we worked it out.
Yeah, most definitely, man. We're really excited to have you on. First question, Tait. You grew up in Michigan. You relocated to Santa Fe. I've been to Santa Fe. It's a beautiful city. And I just want to ask, how important in terms of education, your college experience, how much do you still take from that in your life now, man?
I believe that, like, the basal aspects of where you begin to learn, and I mean, for me, it was definitely reading. I was submersed in books when I was a kid, but like, whatever that is like, it becomes your foundation, I think, for what you gather. I've been thinking a lot about education and learning and what all that is lately, and it's, it's learning to be aware, I think, I mean, it's like, and like, whether that's the nuances of somebody's energy, their, the way they vibe to you or not, or the way people's body language is, or the way the air is moving, or the way the weather changes. It's like all this stuff is all about awareness in degrees. And I think to the degree that we're more aware of our own needs, what other needs are, how we're even feeling, we get disconnected from everything. I mean, it's like really, really base folks will look at their own feelings even and feel like their feelings are who they are. Like if I'm angry, then that's who I am, or if I feel good right now, then this is good. But it's to take yourself out of that, I think, is an important aspect, and to become the watcher of those thoughts and not to lead into that base yourself. Not that it doesn't have its purpose, but I can really kind of negate higher thinking in a way, and I can negate my awareness if I'm going only by temporal feelings. And I think there's a much deeper play at part here in the universe. And I think that the more that we are aware, especially being aware of others and being aware of the uniformity between us and them, and kind of a singular aspect of our beings, if you will, that's super important. And I think that, so as far as my base education, I think that it's reading and it's learning. It's kind of like, I remember hearing about biology when I was a kid in high school, and they talked about, being a biologist is just being aware. It's like being a ontologist is like you're just watching insects or whatever. Being like, whatever it is, you're just viewing, observing whatever nature, whatever the components are around you, and then recording that, and you're becoming aware of your observations. And then you're looking at the microcosms and seeing how they mirror macrocosms, and seeing how all this is interconnected sociologically. And I think that's kind of what a real education is. I think then there's the education that we can talk about, which is reciting rote things that's more pedantic. It's more mechanical, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess it depends on definitions. We go back to definitions, like success. Everybody talks about success these days, and well, fuck, let's define that. What is that? What does that mean? No?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Tate, man, I've seen you probably for the last 10 years, man. I've watched you evolve from like '06 being on the show and then showing up in movies and then popping up here and there. And I like what Rogan says. I think you use it on your one of your podcasts. It might be your intro, and it's him just speaking about you, how when you see Tait Fletcher, he doesn't have dust on him because he's always moving. So like, when I heard that, I was like, dude, that is a perfect way to explain you. How important do you feel it is to because if I look at that as I see it as you being open-minded, you being willing to learn new things and also take risks. How important it is for people to be aware and not get stuck in one idea and want to do things differently.
I mean, I think it's highly important, you know. I mean, you're preaching to the choir, really, in that way. It's, you know, a guy told me one time, like, the things I think we're driven on fear. I'm driven on fear in a lot of ways, and fear of what I may become or fear of what I may not become, you know. And I think that since I was little, that was kind of always a thing. Like, I never wanted to be common. I never wanted, like, I would see groups. I'd hear about mob mentalities, and I was like, ooh, that's a red flag. You got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
And so, like, all that kind of stuff. And then I heard, like, I remember being bored, and this teacher, I must have been in 4th grade or something, you know, and a teacher was like, you're not bored, you're boring. You're not interested in anything.
Yeah.
You're boring. People that are interested in things, those people are interesting people because they're out doing things, they're exploring new things. And I was like, and that stuck with me since then. And, you know, and then I had a fucking crazy, a real variant childhood that was, and teenage, but like later in life, when I started to really look at my life and reflect a little more and become more thoughtful instead of just kind of following base reactions, you know, I looked at it in a different way, and I started to see, you know, perhaps these things were all interconnected.
Yeah, man.
That, you know, it wasn't like all that much different. Now it's just in a different setting. There's different wallpaper and everything, but everything was pretty much all the same as those beginning nuances that tweaked my mind before I got distracted. But I still needed to be different. And like so a guy told me, I'm sitting on the porch of this place, and this old hippie dude, he comes up, and I was like, man, I'm fucking miserable. I get clean, I'm sober, and I'm like, my life is different, but all I am is sober, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to fucking kill myself because this is horrible. And, you know, and the thing is that he goes, well, you're ready to cash your own check, kid. You're free. You can do anything. If you're ready to end it, then you're free. What are you interested in? And I had to admit I wasn't really interested in anything. I'm interested in getting loaded and high adrenaline shit. And I didn't know what was possible. Like, everything I knew that was possible was going to put me in prison. Yeah. And then he said, you should start trying things. And so then I started trying things, and I started doing different things. And that kind of led me into jiu-jitsu, and it led me into, like, daily meditations. And so when I started to simplify my life and take it back to just focus on that thing, my whole life opened up. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about excellence in a single modality, is that a lot of people want to get good at a lot of things, or they look at the totality of life. You look at a life, like, if I'm a younger guy and I'm looking at my life, it's often said, you know, if your life is a movie, is it one that you'd want to watch? You know, like, I don't know who the fuck said that, but it's a great thing to reflect upon.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm, you know, 15 years old, I'm like, that's what I want. I want to, and this guy, man, I was in this halfway house, and he goes, dude, you want to know answers. You're craving answers that guys that are 40-year-old guys know. You can't know that where you are. You have to live that life. You don't get it for free, man. You got to skin your knees. You got to fucking fall down. You got to learn how to stand back up. You got to do all these things. And so I've failed a ton, and I've succeeded, like, in those failures is how I would kind of say that. I think that, you know, a lot of things that I thought were my biggest failures had turned out to be my greatest assets. Yeah. I had no idea. I was crushed by the stuff at the time. One of my friends, JP Perlmutter, he owns a thing called Brick CrossFit. And, he opened it up, get 400 members in the first year. He's doing over $100,000 a month. He's doing great in business. He's got 2 partners that are his cousin and his cousin's friend. They end up fucking him over and burning him all the different types of ways and trying to kick him out of the business. And they'd done some fraudulent things, and it ended up turning to his favor. And now he's doing really well. He's got locations in all tier 1 cities in America. And I think he's got one in maybe Abu Dhabi, and then in Spain he's got 2. So he's doing great. However, if you'd have told him that 8 years ago, he'd be like, no, yeah, it looks like it now, but from where and so that's the thing too, as a kid or as a younger guy, you look at things and you're like, I want the life that guy he's an excellent surfer, skateboarder, he's a mixed martial artist, he does this, whatever. Just pick one thing, and one thing leads you to greatness in all things. Like, I talked to Ari Shafir about comedy. I'm not a comic, but I know about what it takes to get as good as he's gotten at that, and I know what it takes to keep that edge on the sword.
Yeah.
Just because I've done that with combat, with mixed martial arts and with Jiu Jitsu. And like that thing starts to translate. Then I learn a work ethic and I know how to do that. Yeah. So then that bleeds into Caveman Coffee and what I can do there. And then that bleeds into my relationships and the kind of uniformity and kind of relentless attack that I need to have in that. And I think that attack is we all look for placidity. Like, where can I find serenity? Like, as a man, especially, man, you need serenity in your heart. You don't want to live with this angst that just wants to fucking tear the world up, right? We all feel that.
I like what you said.
How do I temper that? How do I focus that? It's not that we're without power as men, but it's that we lack the focus in our power. Yeah. And so how do I get into a place where I can hone it? So then it goes back to my original thing, what's success?
Yeah,
and so I have to define that and go, what is success? And I wouldn't say that, a guy, I forget his name, Derek Sivers, he says...
He messaged me yesterday.
He messaged us yesterday. Synchronicity right here.
Yeah. He's in New Zealand at the moment.
Yeah, he's in New Zealand.
Okay, cool. I'd seen that he was. He's
cool.
Been staying there for a while now. But really interesting guy, man. And he speaks of success, and he's like, if I give you $1 million, are you successful? No, you only have $1 million.
Money doesn't define you.
What we have is not a connotation of our success per se, unless I have dominion over myself, over my mind, over my drives, over my education, over my physical body. Yeah. If I become a master of this that I go through life in, and then I use this to be the most helpful that I can to the world, well, fuck.
Yeah, man.
It'd be hard not to say that that's a successful guy.
I like what you said. I like what you said when you were you on one of your recent podcasts. You were talking about you were working at a bar. You weren't owning the bar. You're taking the door. I think you were doing like door work, and it hit you. You were like, you know what? You thought to yourself, you needed more money, and then you looked at the bar owner who was, I think she was a woman, and you said, you know what? Yeah. She needs more money. And then you were talking about empathy and the importance of having an open heart, not being sympathetic, but being empathetic. And once you realize that, things started to add up and make sense. And I think the power over our mind, and a lot of people aren't aware of how much power we do have over our thoughts and what that can manifest into our reality about, being positive and wanting others around you to have these, positive things. I think that's like the catalyst of like the awareness that you were talking about earlier of growing. But yeah, that was interesting when you talked about that.
I was like, I'm on this boat with this woman, with Donnelly Goodbrode was her name. I'm on this boat that she owns, that she runs, that she builds, and I'm bewailing the fact that I'm not eating well enough. Well, fuck, if the captain of the boat eats better, I'm gonna for sure. I was like, I need her to do well. I need everybody to do well. And I'd always had that thought when I was a kid, like, what would you do if you had, $1 million? Because $1 million to me, it seemed like, fuck, that's a lot of money, you know? Like when you're a little kid, you're like, I would never have to do anything ever again for $1 million. And
it's nothing.
Right. But like I go, what would you do with it? Would you do this or that? And I thought, well, no, I'd take 10 of my friends and I'd give them all $100,000 because I don't want to have all that money all by myself. What fun is that? You're in this other tier of living, but you're alone. I was like, I want my friends to be rich, you know, and and that's kind of the whole idea is like, you know, I have my philosophies not because I'm like a moral person or have some kind of high ethical code. It's just my code.
Yeah.
And it's my code that will bring me happiness, that will make me the strongest that I can be, so that I can be better to everybody around me, because that's the thing that makes me the most fulfilled, is to be that, you know? And so it's really, it's like altruistic self-interest is what a friend of mine calls it, you know? It's like the more I do helpful things for other people, the better my life becomes.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
the more satisfied I
as
am.
well.
You know, that serenity that I was always looking for, that's not an interior job. That's not something that I'm looking for myself, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, give without asking for something in return. So
Yeah.
I'm big on that. Just on, what about your inner circle, Tate? Like, how do you choose the people most closest to you? Is it people that are similar to you or different or just on the same path? Like,
It used to be like, up until I started fighting, I wasn't very, I didn't really pick it a lot. Like, and then it became guys that were my training partners, really, you know, other people that were doing positive things. There were guys that were my training partners that partied a whole lot. I didn't have much in common with them except to train with them. And then it became, you know, and that was the hard thing, I guess, is leaving fighting was a really difficult choice in that way. But even then, who would I hang out with? I mean, like Keith and I were always great friends. You know, I always really had a lot of care for, like, Carlos Condit is a fantastic human. You know, guys like that. But, like, there's a lot of guys in the gym that are, you know, that you go into any gym and there's a lot of braggadocio and there's a lot of different things. I would look towards guys that I looked up to, that I admired, and I was like, man, I like the way that guy walks, you know? And then, because I didn't want to be about some bullshit. I was older than everybody. You know, Keith and I were both a lot older than, you know, a lot of the guys were early 20s that were starting, you know. Carlos, I think he was 18 at the time. But, so the guys I would have stuff in common with more, you know, whether it's Cowboy or Nate Marquardt or Keith, stuff like that. And then later on, it was difficult, because leaving fighting is like your family, you know? And it's like all those people are there, and those are the guys you're loyal to. And once that becomes a thing where it's like, it's an addiction in a way, you know, you have to be kind of maniacal about it to be, you know, I'm going to have a broken hand and I'm going to train anyway. My toes will be broken. I'll train anyway. I'll be sick. As long as I'm not contagious, I'll train anyway. Like, and you're kind of, you know, you got to really have a love for it. I've been lost and humiliated as I see it in front of all my friends and family. I'm still going to train and show up, and, you know, like walking through a lot of different fighters. And so you become aligned with those people a lot. But after that's not your life anymore, one of the saddest things, and so, like, how do I start picking who I'm around? I'd start picking it like guys that were like down the road further than I was, guys that were still bouncers. I'm looking at that and I'm going, how does it feel to be a 40-year-old bouncer? I'm like, ooh, I don't like how that looks. So I look, you know, 10, 12 years down the road and be like, the guys that's doing exactly my job right now, what does that look like if I fast forward time? Because I'm not a lot different than anybody else. Whatever. It's time. Time is, you know, time's number one. I always trip out when I hear like David Bowie, you know?
Yeah, man.
Just passing, you know, and people are like, yes. And it was weird. I heard like 4 different newscasters. They say the same thing. He lost his battle with cancer, right? Very dramatic. And I'm like, wow, how do they all have the same soundbite? That's a trip. You know, they're all different stations and everything. But it's a weird thing, the way we say stuff like that, where, you know, he lost a battle with life. He had this big, huge life, and then life beat the fuck out. Guess what? Life wins every single time.
Yeah.
You know, like the angel of death or whatever, he's got an unbeaten record. Yeah. He's fucking 100%. Horrible ground and pound. The longer you last, the worse it looks. You know what I mean? It's like, he doesn't lose. So, like, I don't give a fuck what gets you. It's like life gets you. It gets everybody. And God bless his beautiful, magical fucking life. That's fantastic. And so that's the kind of thing I've looked at. It's like, you're already dead. You know, we buried one of my best friends, this guy, Rory LaFave. And he's a beautiful, beautiful human. Way fucking, you know, a fine athlete and a gentleman and very, his acumen for business was beyond compare. He was really fantastic. And a street kid, and he got killed by the police when I was maybe 4 years old of that life. And I remember going back to the funeral, and I'm looking at everybody, and everybody, I don't know, at those funerals, everybody gets fucked up at them, and there's like, it's a time, Two things, man. One, I'm standing by his mom at his casket. Everybody else, there's maybe 1,000 people in the church. And I put some things that were personal to me and Rory on his chest and in his pocket. And it's an open casket, and it's like a body that doesn't look like my friend at all. And I'm standing with his mom. And his mom's grabbing my hand, and she looks at me and she says, Tait, you got to stay on the path you're on. You're not supposed to bury your babies. And she's sobbing, You're not supposed to bury your sons, Tait. You got to stay safe for your mom. And I go to this party then later, right? And I'm like, and everybody, it's the same life. There's nothing, no matter what the dramatic event is that happens, death happens, people die drunk drive-ins, and people get hammered to celebrate their life and then drive home. Like, people don't get it. And I'm looking at all these people, and I'm kind of outside of this old life that I was in, and I'm like, these guys are already dead. At least Rory knows he's dead. These guys don't even know it.
Yeah.
And they've been living that same life for the last 20 years. And so I look at that and I go, man, and Keith says it all the time, seek death. Whatever you do, be fully engaged in that thing. As if you're going to die tomorrow, would you be satisfied with the moments that you were spending right before that came? And that becomes a big, big way to operate your life, which I think is huge. And people would say it's reckless or this, that. I would counter and say, to be paradoxical, it's reckless to not live that way. It would be reckless to play it safe. Like, you'd be doing yourself, and whatever God or creator gave you your body, you'd be doing the beautiful, magical fucking entity of life that we have a disservice by not living fully in that way. And I try to remind myself of that.
Yeah, I like what Steve Jobs said. What he said about death, and he talks about, like you said, we're already naked. The idea to think that we're permanent, I think, holds a lot of people back in their self-evolution because they think there's always tomorrow. Nobody is permanent, and I think once you're able to wake up knowing that you're going to be dead soon, for me at least, that's a fuel to my fire of not having fears. Not like, I don't personally believe in failure in terms of goals, because we talk about this a lot. If I'm going to go after a goal and I don't get to the goal, who I became in that path to get there is way more valuable than maybe not getting there. So, talking to some of our listeners, we talk a lot about the importance of, just going for it. Don't listen to what people say.
And what you're saying, I think, is so important. Like that story I was telling you about JP and his cousins and all that.
Yeah.
He says, if I'd have done due diligence and if I'd have done more legal stuff beforehand, I could have avoided all that trouble. But if that had happened, he'd have still had those two partners. And so there's, it really seems to me there's this bigger thing that is happening in the fucking world that I don't get to, sure, we're in control of our own destiny, this and that to a lot of degrees. But had he done due diligence, he'd be in a worse spot today than it ended up happening. Yeah. Which is a trip. Like, today he's got a full ownership of all this stuff, and the assholes are out of his business. Whereas he'd had snakes in the grass forever had he done due diligence and kept them in line the whole time, Yeah. And so it's like, it's a weird thing. You might as well fucking throw those goddamn dice.
Yeah, man. Fucking do it. That's what I'm about.
100%,
hey, man, you grew up in Michigan. I grew up in Ohio. and then
no way.
And then I left that part of the world at 23 to move to LA. And I grew up in a town called Youngstown. So you were talking about, well, yeah, one of my boys actually was just on, do a plug, but yeah, I grew up with Hinchcliffe in the same area. But you were talking about when you said the circle of influence you used to have. I think you referred to them as the street kids, and you look back out of that life and you're like, they're already dead. How important in hindsight was it for you to have left Michigan? Or even, I'm not, how old were you when you left Michigan, first off?
100%.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Like, I mean, man, the question about who you put yourself around too, right? So I'm in a place where you got to be in fertile soil to grow. And maybe the soil that's fertile for me isn't fertile for you. I'm not saying that Michigan's a bad place to grow. I'm super stoked. I grew up there. I'm super stoked for all the interactions I had. And I'm super stoked for the strength that it took for me to walk away.
That's right.
Because without all those things, I wouldn't be me, of course, and I'm pretty stoked to be me. But, I think that, who you're not around is maybe even more important than who you choose to be around. Because the people, I don't need anybody around me that I fuck over somebody or I'm kind of shitty to somebody. And I don't need a guy next to me that's going, oh, you were good. You were all right. That was the right. Fuck them anyway. Fuck that guy. And I need somebody to go, hey, dude, you could be a little fucking kinder. What's wrong with you, dude? What's going on today? Like, that's what I need. I don't need somebody to placate me and to fucking tell me how fucking great I am when I'm acting like shit. I'm not always aware of how I'm acting, and sometimes I let my emotions get the better of me. So I'm careful to not have people like that around. I'm careful to not have people, what I started to do, a simple thing was I started to do a simple gut check. And I go, how do I feel? How do I feel like in here when I'm around that guy? Like, I'm always feeling, ooh, hey man, what's going on, dude? Good. And if I feel like that a little bit, if there's any kind of negative like feeling, I'm like, why do I have that feeling? Maybe I need to make adjustments. Yeah. And then I do that, Sometimes maybe it's me. Maybe it's like, oh, I feel weird because of something I had and I need to clear that up with that person or whatever. Maybe not though. And regardless, I need to feel good. The better you feel most of the time, the better your life is. There's another paradox. The better I feel emotionally, the better my life is. Yeah. However, I try to push comfort away whenever I can. Yeah. I try to live in uncomfortable spots. I try to be uncomfortable all that I can because that's what makes my character better, and then it makes me better all around. We were talking yesterday in the seminar about business and about wartime CEOs and peacetime CEOs. There's kind of no such thing as a peacetime CEO in a way. That's a dude that's like taking over a company and now he's just coasting because it's got good profit margins and it's good to the stock, the people that own the stock and all that kind of stuff. You kind of don't want to always have a takeover mentality, but you always want to be ready for war. You always want to get up and you want to do the job better than the guy next to you is doing. You want to always be a little better. You always want to go, is this good enough? Awesome. That sucks. Let's be great. Let's push. We always want to go, hey, everything went awesome in this deal, in this program, in this thing that we're doing for whatever, the day, week, month, year. It went great, better than expected. How can we make it better? Where did we fail? Because if I'm not steady looking at where I'm failing, I'm never growing. And it's always coasting. And coasting never gets muscles, man. Yeah. Coasting never gives us strength. And so I look towards that, man. Yeah, I want serenity in my life. Yeah, I want that peace and comfort. But yeah, I always want it. Like, I think that old punk rock's axiom, says satisfaction is the death of desire. Yeah. I don't ever want to be satisfied in the way that it takes my hunger away. I fucking eat good and I'm always hungry, man. Yeah. I'm always looking to get better. And it's not in a way that's like, I feel like, I want to crush this guy or that guy. No, man. I want to fucking get most of the juice that I can out of life. And I'm a generous motherfucker. I want to share it with whomever, and I want to show other people how to do it. Right. However, doesn't mean I'm going to sit and rest back. And if me fucking grinding and driving makes somebody uncomfortable and they go, oh, he's a little aggressive. He's a little bit too much. Awesome. You just made it easier for me to win. Yeah. And most people give up so soon. It's not that most people fail. What happens is most people quit, right? What's failing? If I stop. That's it. Like, if you just keep going, fuck, you win. You win. Because guess what? Everybody's a pussy. That's the big thing, right? Yeah. Most people are fucking pussies.
Yeah.
I like everywhere. And they stop and they get fucking beat down and they have a guy next to them going, you know what? You tried enough. You did try, buddy. It's okay. Let's go do this other thing. Holy fuck, you don't need that guy next to you. Yeah, man. You need that guy going, here's how we sharpen you up, dude. Here's how you crush it next time. Yeah. That's who you need, right? Yeah. So I don't want to ever be placated in any kind of way. I want to smash shit.
Yeah. I like what Bruce Lee says. Probably one of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes is he says, if I told you I was good, you'd say I'd be bragging. If I told you I wasn't good, you know I'd be lying. That's, dude, that's a whole nother, Bruce Lee was,
for sure.
He was sent from a different world, man. He was so young and so, Shit.
And the thing is everybody that is a naysayer in that way, all they're speaking to is their own fear. They're scared to try, and that's why you see me hashtag sometimes I need you to try.
Yeah,
it's like I just want everybody to fucking try because I really do believe everybody can win.
Yeah, so
I don't believe there has to be an offset to that,
I used to work for a leadership company teaching leadership out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and we used to talk about not trying, but JFDI, just focus and do it. So don't try, just do it. Just fucking do it. Go for it.
I mean, that whole thing about there's got to be winners and losers and all that. Tell me that if we're all in a boat. and you know what I mean? We're all in a fucking boat, and there's 6 of us, and there's 6 oars. Well, if we're all rowing successfully and we're all good at that shit moves better with more beauty and unison all through the fucking world.
Yeah.
If one of us is going backwards or something because he sucks or he's too weak or whatever, fuck, I need that guy to be strong because we all move better when we're all moving better. I mean, and to me, it's no different than that. The macrocosm is just like that little microcosm of a little rowboat with 6 people in it. It's the same shit.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, you show me some physics that shows me that's not true. Because I see that everywhere. And I know it's true in my life. I know it through combat. I know it through jiu-jitsu. I find out easy, man. If I'm the best guy in the room, and I triangle the fuck out of you every single time, and I'm never going to show you my setup because I always want to be better.
Yeah.
I go, he's not going to get much better.
Wasn't Schaub talk? Yeah.
So I always get to win, But the rub is I never get better either. Because I have this one fucking thing then that I do, and I never evolve.
Yeah.
Now, if I show you all my setups and I show you how to do everything, now you start blocking my shit. Ooh, now I got to figure out, maybe I get good at an omoplata. Because I've got to change as you grow. I need you to get better for me to get better. If you don't get better, I stop.
Yeah.
I need you to fucking win.
Yeah, man. I get it.
Yeah,
That's
information sharing
brilliant.
too. I love that.
I need you to try. I got you now. Yeah, man.
Hey, Tait.
Yeah, that's precisely it. I mean, it's up to, it's up to my own life. That's my life. Like I'm hurting. And that's the thing, man. That's where I started seeing all this too. I go, fuck, man. If I don't want you to do better, I'm hurting myself.
It's like accountability.
Yeah.
Fuck, and whatever that is, like people are like, oh, what if there's another coffee company? Awesome. Everybody raises their game.
You're exactly
right.
right.
I like whatever that is. It's like great. We're talking about gyms and CrossFit gyms, and like, what about a guy that doesn't know fuck all? He opens a gym down. Awesome. Makes me look better.
Exactly.
Abundance.
Great. Good. It makes me dial it in a little better. What am I insecure about my confident product? If I am, I don't deserve to be in the business.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a florist. I mean, find out what you're great at, That's the thing about, like, in America, I don't know if you guys vibe on it, but, like, there's the big thing about, like, everybody wins, right? Like, and what they mean is, like, in school, like, if they'll have foot races in gym class, that all the kids get a ribbon.
That's awful.
It doesn't matter if you're last or if you're first or whatever, right? Now, this is a different concept of where everybody wins, where I think this sucks. Because the fucking thing is they don't want a kid to get hurt feelings. Well, guess what? When I cry and I get hurt feelings, I grow from that. Every time I've lost, I've grown way more than when I've won. Every time. And so the other thing is maybe the kid finds out he's shitty at fucking running. He can either challenge himself and get better, or maybe he finds out he's awesome at the cello. Maybe he finds out he's a beautiful poet. Like, there's the greatness in everybody. And our scholastic programs, and I guess I mean that in life, whether it's your church or whether it's your schools or whether it's the people you're around, that's all education. And if that's not speaking towards bringing the best fucking human forth in children, then you're fucking missing the point, man.
Yeah.
That's got to be what our purpose is. It has to be. It has to be what our purpose is in ourselves as we raise ourselves. How do I get to be the best human I can be? I need that to be in the forefront of my head.
Yeah.
Or else, what's the point? I'll just stay in bed. Fuck it. You know?
Hey, Tait, you did an amazing podcast a couple of months ago with Brendan Schaub. I think Schaub actually really opened up, and his performances since have been pretty amazing. But what I want to talk to you about is when you both decide to retire. Obviously, you've both done really well coming out of the UFC and things like that. But when was that point when you decided? Because a lot of fighters stay on too long, they get hurt, but you guys actually haven't had that. So when was that point when you said you needed to leave and you wanted to do something else in your life, man.
Well, a couple things happened. When I was in the house with the Ultimate Fighter, Dana gave a talk, and everybody thinks that Dana's pretty inspirational because Dana is, loud. And what he said he used to box, back in Boston. And then he was like a shit boxer, like amateurish or whatever. And he wanted to go pro and wanted to do that. And then he saw guys that were super fucking good that were way better than him. And they weren't shit in the boxing world. You know what I mean? Or they were getting beat up and they were having some bad damage, right? He goes, fuck, that's not a good thing. Maybe I go into promoting. And he starts doing whatever else he does, right? He ends up on the West Coast eventually with Chuck and Tito as agents for them. But that talk showed me a lot, and I started looking, man, because I've been around the UFC for a while. I'd fought in WEC at that point, and King of the Cage a bunch, and I started looking at it, and I go, this fucking guy, man, and I'd see who comes and goes, and I'd seen guys come and go already. And so I go, who's around the UFC for a long time? Ring girls? Herb Dean, John McCarthy, referees, the owners,
Buffer.
the cut men.
No,
It's kind of
Sticks
it.
not anymore.
Yeah, Buffer, but not fighters.
Yeah.
Man.
Everybody comes and goes, right? And there's this short life, and I go, fuck. And I was already like, I turned 35 years old in the house,
Oh, shit.
right? And and I go, fuck, that's late in the day, dude. It's late in the day. I mean, guys do it. Chuck's a little bit older, I think, and Randy for sure older. But I was like, how long does the party go on? And so then after that, I took a couple fights afterward. But after I got out, as I was leaving the house, I started to have doubts, I guess, or thinking, what would I do next? The minute I started thinking, what am I going to do after I'm done fighting? I'm done fighting. Because before that, all I thought about was fighting. That was all and so I think that, like, when that comes into the mind, that's it's already kind of too late a little bit. You should stop. Nobody stops at that point. Everybody takes a couple more fights, right?
Yeah.
I remember Chuck was up at my gym. I think he'd been either knocked out by Shogun or by Rich Franklin. And he was like, I got to take another few fights, man. Dana can't tell me to stop. And Dana had told him, you got to stop. And he goes, I'm not going to stop. And but there's addiction to that. There's like, to go out and drive and let it all hang out, it's different than training with the boys. It's different. You're not going to throw an elbow at your boy with full force. You're not going to hit them with knees the same way. It's different. And a fight is a true test. All the pressure of the crowd and everything, it's just different. And once you feel that, you crave it. And also, if that's your living, like where Chuck was, he was making a lot of money. And that was the other thing. I go, you're not making Chuck Liddell money. Yeah. What are you going to do? Do this for another 5 years? And so then I started thinking about, you better get after the next thing. What's the next thing you're going to do? I go, fuck, I don't know. And I was teaching Jiu Jitsu. I love Jiu Jitsu. I had a gym. And then I started, a friend of mine, Darren Prescott, came in. We became great friends through Jiu Jitsu and through film then. And I started working as a stuntman for him.
Yeah.
And I go, maybe this is the next thing, And so I kind of segued in like that. And I kind of made it, I was like, I kind of had my toe in the water for a little bit, but I go, if you're going to do this, you got to do it full force as if you were fighting and make it really like that. And I'd been in the gym before, and I didn't like it anymore, man, because if I wasn't sparring hard, I felt like a bitch.
Were you at Jackson's at that time? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so who could you, the guys you were sparring with were all killers probably at Jackson League.
Like a lineup would be, like, for the most part, when I was there, I mean, it's me. Carlos had just come back. He'd come into Jackson shortly, maybe a year or 2 years before I retired. And but Keith was my main training partner. Jardine, Rashad, Nate Marquardt, Elliot Marshall would come down.
Yeah.
Brendan, when Brendan was first getting in, really sparred with him a few times. But not to say we weren't teammates. We done that a little bit. But it was guys like that. Yeah, George was there a bunch. It's like, so it's like it was a group of fucking killers for sure. Andre Arlovsky wasn't there yet, but like Paul Bonatello had come and gone, and there's always dudes dropping in of that caliber, and So yeah, I mean, you're getting after it at a fight gym. You know, it's different.
Was it positive? Like, are those guys? Jackson.
100%.
Yeah. So were you guys meant to bring each other up, or what was that? Talk about the environment there.
Especially like Joey Villaseñor. Joey's an unheralded guy in a lot of ways, but Joey fought in Pride, and he fought King of the Cage champ for many years. One of the fastest knockouts. He had this jumping left hook that was devastating, and he just put guys to sleep a lot. He's one of the reasons Kyle Noak came over from Australia and started training with us. Kyle's a good friend of ours, and he and Joey became best friends after Joey beat him up in a fight in Australia. And Joey brought a lot of guys into the gym that way. A lot of guys would get beat by Joey, and then they go, "What's going on over here?" And they,
Train with him.
So at any rate, it was a beautiful experience in that way, and hard work was heralded, like grinders were heralded. And so you had to, I mean, I've been around a long time, but you got, like, what it's like if you're new. If you're new and you walk in, you want to go to Jackson's? Okay, you got zero discipline with anything. You're not good at jiu-jitsu, striking, or wrestling. You're not an asshole, but you're wasting my time and you're going to get beat up.
Yeah.
And dudes are going to beat the fuck out of you. Like, you're going to get taxed in training, right? You're good at wrestling. You come in on a striking day, you're going to get beat up. Then you work everybody wrestling. Ooh. They respect your wrestling. Okay, I'm not so good at wrestling, but I'm a good striker. Hey, dude, let's work on wrestling, and then we kind of become friends. And that's kind of how guys get eased in. You get great at one thing, come into a gym and start to hone other things, and try to do like what Georges St. Pierre does so well. I think nobody does it better. Is he marries the little moments in between the striking into the wrestling into jiu-jitsu. He's seamless in the way that he moves, right? And so I think that's a big thing that's a benefit of a fight gym like that. But then it's all love, man. It's like nobody really helped me more than Keith. Like, Keith was my main sparring partner, and he was really the guy that was most interested in me getting better. Rashad the same way, being super helpful. Brandon Gibson, he was an athlete then, and he was fighting. Man. And Brandon is a fantastic striking coach now. But even back then, and he's little, man, he's a lot smaller, but we'd be going, and he would fucking be like, "Hey, man, you want to work on this after?" Real super humble, but super ready to help. Everybody was super ready to help. Little John, he taught me about attitude. He just smiles all the time. No matter how beat up he is, no matter how hard the practice is, he's just happy, man, happy to be there.
Yeah.
So it's like all that kind of stuff. There's a real camaraderie and a fellowship at Jackson's that I think is maybe, like, I see it at, like, at AKA, it seems like guys are like that up there in different places. But I think maybe there's only a few gyms where there's super high-level guys where they have that kind of a feeling in the gym,
Yeah. Tait, where did you meet Greg?
Greg Jackson?
Yeah.
I met Greg, the first time I ever met Greg was, there's a man named Arlen Sanford, and Arlen was a founding member of a group called the Dog Brothers Stick Fighting. And so the Dog Brothers, Arlen and Eric Knaus, started after they fought in an international stick fighting competition. And in that competition, they took first and second, right? But they're heavily padded, like big shoulder pads, elbows, heads, masks, the whole, like everything. And so it's just point fighting. It's like karate point fighting. And so I think Eric says to him, "Hey, where do you live?" And he says, "I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico." He goes, "I live in Long Beach." He says, "If you don't fly out until Monday, you want to come back to my house, you can stay there and we'll fight. And we'll just put on a fencing mask, which is kind of like having a screen door over your face, and batting gloves, and we'll just go at it. And we'll see," because I wasn't really satisfied when I came across and you kept coming in that I wanted to stop you, or that when I did this or you did that you wanted to stop me. And they go, "Yeah, let's find out." And they wanted to find out the efficacy of their art that they'd practiced so long. Wow. And so it's something that had never happened in stick fighting and kung fu and fucking karate and all these things that you see out there. There's very little high contact. And they have an axiom called higher consciousness through harder contact. Higher consciousness through harder contact.
I like that.
When the stakes are high, when the consequences are high, your fucking consciousness vibrates at a higher level, man. For sure. And so Arlen was the first guy that I learned any kind of real combat from. He taught me about distance, about power, about space. And so I started doing jiu-jitsu with him, because what the Dog Brothers had found out in this art. They're in shorts and t-shirts or no shirts and a stick and fucking street hockey gloves and a fencing mask, right? And they're fighting. And so what they found is that when guys it would get too hot with sticks, they would crash into each other. The fight would go to the ground, and if you knew a little jiu-jitsu, you were way ahead of the game. So they started learning jiu-jitsu. And so I started doing jiu-jitsu with Arlen. That was the first guy I ever started messing with. And then Amal Easton, he was from Santa Fe, New Mexico also. And I did a couple of classes with Amal before he moved up to Boulder to start his school. And he was amazing, man. A great athlete, still is today. And today he's got a half a dozen schools or something up there. He's a really big impact on the morale, the health, the fitness, the confidence of the areas where he lives. But at any rate, I started jiu-jitsu at that time. Then we're all rolling. There must have been half a dozen or something in this little garage, and it's all adobe. And what adobe is just bricks of dirt that are compressed into bricks, right? So it's pretty coarse. It's like sandpaper. And so it's walls of adobe bricks. And then it's wintertime, and it's cold as hell in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So there's a wood stove in the corner. Now, the whole place is basically an airtight garage with just mats on the floor. So when you're rolling with somebody and your foot comes up, if you scrape the wall, you're losing your whole foot. Like, it's like you just went across sandpaper.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's some stakes just being in the room. Then the stove goes on because it's cold as fuck. Well, but now what happens is all the oxygen in the room is sucked out of the room. And so now there's even less air and you're at 7,000 feet. Anyway, really interesting place to train and awesome. Like, those were kind of my beginnings of a trained martial art, right? Then one day, Greg Jackson, don't know who he is. He's this dude that's got some kind of karate, Gaido Jitsu, he called it back in the day. Because he looked up the Japanese, it was like the way of the street is what it translated to, I guess. So he comes up with half a dozen guys, a couple cops, some fucking gangbanger types, and like just the motley crew, you know. And they come in and they want to wrestle. And so we all wrestle with everybody and kind of go back and forth. And it was just at a time when we were all just learning in New Mexico. We're all just learning different things, man. So that was the first time I met Greg, and he was one of the kindest, most gracious men I'd ever met. Very respectful. He's always, Mr. Fletcher, how are we doing today, sir? And that's the way Mr. Winklejohn is too. But, you know, they're very formal, polite, respectful of everybody. And that was the first time I met Greg, and that was fucking 99 maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
And then started seeing him. I was at another jiu-jitsu school, and I started seeing him at tournaments all the time. And so we'd all come from, New Mexico, and we'd go and compete in fucking Colorado or Vegas or Dallas or wherever. And so in Dallas, John Lewis's team was a big team, and they were from there. And he would have 300 people that would enter, and he would always take the team championship. And Greg wanted that. So pretty soon started wrestling for Greg, and we just got as many guys as we could, and we took home team titles. And after Greg started doing that, we just took home team titles every year after that.
Cool, man. Tait, you've been in you've been on the highest level of fighting. You've been in films with, Denzel, Depp, Keanu Reeves. Yeah, Marky Mark is the man.
Mark.
So we always like to ask our guests.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's Full Metal Jacket. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He was crazy.
That was the first film he ever did.
Was it Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah, me and Keith and a friend of mine, Jared Shaw. He was a Navy SEAL for 12 years. We're in the back of a chopper, and he's going to get in, and we're just talking in between shots. He's like, I did this. The first film I ever did, I had an M16, and I was like, fucking, that was your first film ever, and he'd done Broadway, I think, before then, but yeah, what a role for your
What
first
a crazy role. That was, so of all those, that's a crazy story. I was just talking about that guy because he's in a new Netflix series right now, and he's plays one of those awesome,
Daredevil, right?
Yeah, bizarre character. But
love him.
Yeah, dude. So of all the people you've met, your travels, including fighters, is there one story that sticks out that you're like, shit, man, if I put this on paper, people wouldn't believe it? Like, could you give us a good story of pick one?
God, I don't know, man.
No filter.
I guess there's so much. I just look at it. It's weird. You get involved in a life, and you kind of take it for granted. It's kind of like I was telling a woman earlier. Cherie Chan is her name, and her husband's Matt Chan, and they're both like CrossFit Games athletes. And we're, because I'm here at this thing right now that's called Wadapalooza, and there's like, I don't know, 2,000 athletes that are going to compete tomorrow, the next day, and Sunday. And then we got some guys from my gym that are wheelchair athletes. They're adaptive athletes. They're paraplegic. And it's the first year they're doing that. So it's going to be a badass weekend anyway.
Awesome.
But they're downstairs, and she's talking about like, well, I don't know what I would write in a book about or this or that or whatever. And I was like, holy fuck. Because she's got just a broad sense of the world in a really unique way of looking at it. And I go, you know what's interesting? I remember the first time Keith got asked to do a seminar, and we're sitting on the mats, and I don't know if it's before or after training, but we're sitting down on the mats at Jackson's. And I was like, oh, you're going to be here to train? You want to get some work in on set? No, I got to go, and I got to do this goddamn thing for Muscle Farm or whoever it's for. And I go, fucking rad. He goes, fuck that. He says, I don't know what I'm going to teach them. And I go, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, what would I show them anyway? And there's this lie that humility tells us, that we don't know anything. Here's a dude at the highest level of sport, the highest level, one of the best guys in the very world. Even today, I'll put Keith Jardine against almost anybody in the world. He's better than he's ever been.
The dean of me.
Believe that. Believe that. He's still like better than he's ever been.
That's awesome.
He's going, what would I teach these people? There's a way that we devalue ourselves. If we really merit it, if we really know something and we have humility, we go, what would I have to teach them? Without knowing that we're fucking high-trained professionals. We have a ton to teach. And I started going over, you do this, you do that, you do this psychological thing, you do this thing of the get-ups. You do like, and he's like, oh, fuck. We belittle how much we know. And so, like, I guess I'd look at that, and I mean, as far as, like, being useful is like, being humble, but owning your own experience and owning how much you know is, I think, super important. As far as like crazy stories and shit, fuck, I don't know. There's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff that I would have to get clearance from other people to say. You know, I look at it in my own life and I go, like, for me, I'm a guy that whenever I was a little kid, I'm afraid I'm going to end up in prison or on welfare. Yeah. I got no reason to think those things, but that was what was embedded in me from when I'm a little kid. And then it ends up coming true. I'm looking at my mom through 5-point restraints and bulletproof glass at the Federal Detention Center, right? And I'm looking at 25 years. And my life ends up here with Denzel and Marky Mark, and whatever. And I get to be a professional athlete for almost a decade. And I get some of the best people in my life. And I live free and I breathe air and I got money in my pocket. And I'm respected in my community. And people look up to me and I get emails from people. God bless all of you that are like, you've changed my life. And I didn't kill myself last week because of you. And I lost 400 pounds. And I fucking did this. And I'm a better parent to my child. And and my life is the most amazing thing that I know about, that I can really speak to of you know, and that's why I go back to the thing I need you to try and how to pirate your life back and all those things, because it's so vitally important to take full ownership of yourself and to kind of sit back. I remember, I think Mike Tyson said this. There's a couple guys I'm sure it's attributed to, but they ask about what their biggest regrets were. And then when the light was shining, when those moments were there, that they didn't take time to enjoy those moments, you know, and then the moments were gone. Yeah. And now they're older men. And, you know, that's a real thing, man, to sit back. And Rogan kind of taught me that, because life started to move faster for me in the last few years. And I go, I don't know how to, you know, sometimes unplug a little bit. He says, dude, for 15 minutes a day, take that time, call it meditation, call it prayer, do whatever you want with it. No electronics on, no sound on, just you in your head and breathing through it. And he says, you better recenter yourself every day, or your cortisol go up. You're just physiologically, things are going to happen in your body, and you won't be as vital, as useful. Yeah. And I found that stuff to be true. And like, you know, I don't know, like I don't tell stories super well, but I try to be.
Hold on.
You're the storytelling genius.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I love the humility.
I I just feel better, you know. Like people ask me what I think. Who's your favorite philosopher or whatever, right? I never learned much from philosophy. I used to like to read it as a kid a lot, you know. Who my favorite philosopher is, I would look back and I would say Marcus Aurelius. But he wasn't really a philosopher, was he? He was more of a dude living fucking life. And then he would reflect on his life and he would write about it as if he were writing notes to himself in the future to fucking remember this. Because his mind was like mine in that he forgets a lot of the beautiful lessons that he learns. And so he surrounds himself with powerful people that build him up, that don't tell him bullshit. So he fucking puts good markers in his life about what a man is and about where he wants to be in the future. You know, one of the best things I started doing for myself is using other people as the canaries in the mine shaft, as I would say. Like, you know, like in America, we mine ore and stuff from the ground, and we used to send men down, and we still do. Like in Chile, there was a bunch of guys caught in a mine a few years ago. But we'd send men down to go and fucking haul this shit out, whether it's silver, gold, whatever. But what happened is that sometimes they'd go down, they'd explode the tunnels for the mines, and they'd hit gas lines down. Not gas lines, but like, you know, there'd be gas that they'd hit underground. And it would kill guys. And so they started putting canaries in ropes, and they started putting them down the mine shaft, and they'd pull them up a couple days later. And if the canary was alive, then the air wasn't rancid and wasn't poisonous. They could send men in. And that was like the scientific testing they would do to send humans down to fucking work in a horrible job.
Yeah, wow.
So I use other humans as my fucking canaries. And I look to that guy, 10, 12 years older, and I go, he's still fighting. How's that look? A 45-year-old guy that took too many fights.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. That doesn't look good. And fighting's like that, man. Fighting's like drinking. Like, you can keep drinking all you want. But if you got a problem with drinking, you're going to, at some point, have to stop.
Yeah.
And if it's drinking that calls the time when it's to stop, that's ugly, man. It's like fighting. You can choose an empowered path to go, where do I go next? I'm in this beautiful, beautiful occupation or thing that I'm doing that has a finite time I can do it in. My body is only going to last for a certain amount of time where I can be, you know, good in this realm. So do I choose it in an empowered way when I leave, or do I let the fighting choose when I leave? Because that's a fucking sad day, and there's too much damage at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I start looking at it like that, and those canaries down the mine shaft with whatever it is you're doing. You know, look at, like, whether you want to be married or not. Look at married guys that are fucking 50 years old. Look at single guys that are 50. Do you want to be a 70-year-old single guy? Do you want to, like, I look at my whole life like that. Do I want to have been a miser and traded off all my friendships for money when I get there? Or do I, you know, like, what do I want it to look like if I were to design, if I were crazy enough, if I were fucking crazy enough to think I could design my own life and that it could end up where I wanted it to go at 50, 60, 70 years old, what would it look like? And what would I be doing right now?
I think you're doing it. I think we can do that.
Crazy enough to think you can do that, to fucking do that, and you can do that.
That's right.
Definitely.
To do that.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the first part of the Tait Fletcher interview. You definitely would have got plenty out of that. We just wanted to break it up in two because we really want you to digest what Tait has to say. He's got a lot of information to share. So the next part of the episode is going to be on in a couple of days' time. So make sure you subscribe, leave us a quick review on iTunes. That's how you're going to know it's out.
Subscribe, like, and share. Support the cause, people.
Definitely, guys. So enjoy your week wherever you are in the world. I know we've got a lot of listeners in different countries. Like we said, subscribe because the next episode is going to be on quickly. And if you want to know when it comes on and you want a quick download, that's the only way you're going to be able to get it.
Yep.
It makes me wanna creep.
I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Johnny Stofko and Tristan Cannell.